Hey everyone, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are taking grade 7 math totally out of the textbook and dropping it straight into the real world. We're looking at a supplemental proportional reasoning and rational numbers project. Basically, we're going on an entrepreneurial mission. We are going to build and manage a food truck business, and we're going to do it using the exact pre-algebra and number system concepts right out of the math standards.
So I've got to ask, are you ready to run your own business? Because let's be real, running a successful food truck takes way more than just a killer taco recipe. You've got to navigate the actual real-world challenge of tracking every single expense and revenue stream. And to pull that off, you need absolutely rock-solid math skills. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for the Explainer today. 1. The Profit-Loss Project. 2. Planning and estimation. 3. Checkpoint, calculating your costs. 4. Beware the sign trap. And finally, 5. Rubric, final self-check.
Starting off with Phase 1, the Profit-Loss Project.
Any seasoned entrepreneur will tell you that accurate accounting is literally the lifeblood of a successful business. If your math is off, your business goes under. Period. To manage our food truck, we're going to lean heavily on one specific mathematical tool: rational numbers. As you know from the Unit 2 materials, rational numbers are the set of numbers that includes our integers, fractions, and of course, decimals. Because you can't run a cash register using only whole numbers, right? You're constantly dealing with dollars and cents, so fluency with decimal operations is going to be your absolute most valuable business asset. And this brings us to a crucial shift in how we think mathematically, pulling straight from the grade 7 Common Core standards. We really have to start viewing negative numbers in terms of everyday contexts. You know, in a classroom, a negative number can sometimes just feel like a line drawn to the left of 0. But out in the field, with our food truck project, a negative number represents a very real business reality. It's amounts owed, it's expenses, or yikes, a financial loss for the day. Moving right along to Phase 2, planning and estimation. Look, smart entrepreneurs don't just start throwing money around. They plan their expenses and estimate their totals way before they punch a single number into a calculator. We can actually break this workflow down into 3 really manageable steps. First up, plan your expenses for ingredients. You know, your lemons, sugar, cups, taco shells, the whole shebang. Second, estimate the total math in your head. And third, only after you've got that mental estimate do you calculate the exact dollars and cents. Now, you might be wondering, why do we bother estimating first? Well, the educational standards explicitly require us to assess the reasonableness of answers using mental computation and estimation strategies. Think about it. If you estimate your food truck supplies should run you about $40, but your final calculation spits out $400, well, that estimation just acted as your safety net. It instantly flags that your final answer is not reasonable, and there's definitely a calculation error in there. And this brilliantly illustrates how setting up a simple table for items like gallons of lemonade or taco shells keeps your business math perfectly organized. By putting your estimated cost right next to your actual cost, verifying your numbers is a breeze. Like, notice how that $10 estimate for lemonade is incredibly close to the actual cost of $9.75. It proves our exact calculation makes total sense. All right, Phase 3. Checkpoint. Calculating your costs. It is time to actually execute a real calculation, using those rational numbers we've been planning out. Let's see how our food truck actually performed today. Here's the scenario. Today, your truck pulled in $15.50 in revenue from customer sales. Awesome. But your expenses for ingredients were $20.75. To find your daily profit, you obviously need to subtract your expenses from your revenue. That gives us our operation, 15.50 minus 20.75. When we run that subtraction, we end up with a negative number, negative 5.25. Now, don't panic. Taking a temporary loss is a completely normal part of business operations, especially when you're just starting out and loading up on inventory. Mathematically, getting this right just requires some really precise decimal subtraction, making absolute sure you align those decimal points carefully. So the really crucial point here is how you report this number. According to the St. Paul Pacing Guides, a super common mistake is giving a numerical answer without any units or context. You can't just write down negative 5.25 and call it a day. You've got to label it with a dollar sign, include the cents, and explicitly state that this number represents a daily loss for the food truck. Context is literally everything here. Okay, Phase 4, beware the sign trap. Listen up, because we are officially entering the danger zone. The Unit 02 instructional materials give a very specific warning about a common mistake, losing the negative sign when subtracting decimals or dealing with negative balances. It happens all the time. When you're juggling decimal points and borrowing numbers, that little negative sign often just vanishes from the paper, magically turning a massive business debt into a fake profit. And we definitely do not want that.
Now, what's really interesting about this is seeing the mistake in action side by side. Let's say you start with your loss of $5.25, and then you get hit with another expense of $2.50. The wrong way shows what happens when you drop the negative context. Somehow you end up calculating a positive $2.75. No way! But look at the right way. We take our negative balance and we literally add another negative expense, which results in a total loss of negative $7.75. Much better. Well, mathematically better anyway.
The standard that actually fixes this whole misconception is understanding the additive inverse. The number system standards make it crystal clear. Subtracting a rational number is exactly the same thing as adding its opposite. So P minus Q is the exact same as P plus negative Q. If you owe money and you subtract more money from your account, you're really just adding to your debt. Framing it this way in your mind prevents you from falling into the sign trap entirely.
And that brings us to Phase 5, the rubric, final self-check. Before you hand in your fruit truck project or, before you hand over your financials to the bank, you have to evaluate your own work. Here's a quick checklist pulled directly from the foundations of solving equations in rational numbers. Did you include your units, meaning dollars and cents? Did you estimate before you calculated to make sure your answer is actually reasonable? Are your positive and negative signs mathematically correct? And honestly, the most important one, does the solution actually make sense in the real world of running a food truck? As the Unit 1 source pack reminds us, always check whether a solution makes the original statement true. This isn't just some arbitrary rule for algebra. It's honestly a rule for life. Plugging your final numbers back into your original business plan is the ultimate key to both mathematical and entrepreneurial success. Which leaves us with one final, pretty exciting thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. You've completely mastered your local food truck project using rational numbers. But if your food truck explodes in popularity and you expand to a brand new city, how are you going to use these exact same rational number operations to calculate scaling up your recipes, analyzing way larger data sets, and projecting massive new profit margins? Definitely keep that in mind as you continue to build your math empire. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and hey, keep calculating.